Hello, sports fans. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you for stopping by our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications toggle so you never miss a thing. All of our content up here every day. Looking forward to it. Thank you, and we'll see you on the radio.
Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the Hard Truth Distilling Company in Brown County, Indiana.
So for the thousands in attendance and the millions watching around the world, time! 3 on the way. Oh! It went in! It went in! And Indiana wins the ball game! Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni! Float game for the win! Taylor's gone! Come on, touchdown, Indy! Woo! America! They got a football team now!
Pretty simple. I win. Google me.
You know that I'm the cream of the crop.
Now, from the Hard Truth Studios, here's Jim Coyle.
Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company Studios on this Wednesday. And now we are joined by Sir Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Jim. I'm doing good. It's a sad day in Louisville today. As you know, yesterday, Junior Bridgeman passed away.
You know what? I'm glad you reminded me that. I saw that late last night. And, yeah, that was, I know it was unexpected. And what a titan in business, first of all, more so in business than anything. He passes away worth over $1 billion. And this is the guy who started out playing high school basketball. Is it East Chicago Roosevelt?
Washington.
But on potentially is it potentially the greatest high school team ever in Indiana? Or
yeah, I think a lot of people say it'd be that team or George McGinnis's team or maybe one of the Marion teams with Jay Edwards and Lyndon Jones.
Buddy, anything that George McGinnis is on, I'll argue that he's it because he is. I don't care. He was more impactful than Larry Bird was, and that's hard for people to understand. I wish that I would have gotten to see him play. But I know how dominant he was because he did it such a young age. But that dude was he's one of the greatest ever that does not get mentioned enough as one of the greatest ever, I think.
I agree. I mean, he played. That was back in the era when freshmen had to sit out, so he didn't play as a freshman after he led Indianapolis, Washington with Steve Downing to the state title. And then he played 1 year and went to the Pacers, and he was in the ABA and didn't get as much publicity as a lot of the big names at the time. He finally got his title at one point, and but back to Junior Bridgeman. Yeah, he's from East Chicago, Washington. Came to Louisville.
Beat Floyd Central in 1971 at the Final Four with Pete Turgovich and Mel Stoddard.
102 to 88 in Hinkle Fieldhouse. I was there.
Then
he came to Louisville. He was one of Denny Crum's first recruits, and he's the guy who got Crum launched in the right direction. He and Alan Murphy, if you remember that name.
And it was on from there as Denny Crum. And then yesterday, I was fortunate to have Scotty Davenport on with me. He, obviously just retired from Bellarmine there in Louisville, but he has so many Indiana connections. But he was an assistant to Denny and to Rick Pitino. I didn't realize he was an assistant for as long as he was.
Yeah, he started out with Crum, and Pitino kept him and made him lose 73 pounds and refocused his energy on the right things. And he made Bellarmine a Division II national power. Now they're a Division I program. So yeah, it's been quite a week here, and we're just getting started in the conference tournament play. Tomorrow.
Absolutely, Louisville, one of only 3 teams expected to make the ACC NCAA tournament.
Yeah, they went 18-2 in the ACC. Hard to believe, and
that's the thing. The teams are at the top. You've got Louisville went 18-2,
Clemson 18-2, and Duke 19-1.
That is really freaky because after that, it's like
It's
the-
mediocrity. Carolina, SMU, Wake Forest, all those teams are bubble teams. But
So are those teams, Louisville, Clemson, Duke, are they that good?
I mean, Duke is. I mean, I think Duke is. They beat Auburn, and they've got some really good win. They blew out Illinois. As you remember that game like 3 weeks ago.
That I talked about. They destroyed
That is
Illinois.
right.
That was
Junior
a
Bridgeman and I, same high school class. Yeah, they blew out Illinois. Duke's really good. I think Louisville's really good. I mean, I know they've only played one ranked team since the first of the year, but I watched almost all of their games, and they play smart. They play both ends of the floor. They don't take bad shots. They either shoot layups and dunks or three-pointers. They don't take any mid-range shots, and they've got a really elite point guard in Chucky Hepburn, and that's the winning combination. I think they can win a couple games in the tournament.
Yeah, it's there's no reason not to, and they're a pretty
Now,
talented team.
IU fans will probably have their eye on Clemson to see what a Brad Brownell team looks like.
Yeah, he is not I would say he's not popular among the fans, but mainly because such a high proportion of Indiana fans right now want Chris Beard, and I get that. He's without question probably the best remaining candidate from a coaching standpoint, it would seem. And as far as fit, it would seem. I just have I don't think that he is in the pool personally.
You don't think they're considering him?
Beard, I don't.
Oh, you said okay. Yeah, I don't think they are either. I noticed that, I read Peaks, and I noticed they've done a flip-flop. A week ago, they were really pushing Chris Beard, and
Imagine that.
and right now they've backed away from it.
Huh, imagine that. Well, I guess a week's worth of readers, that'll help though, right?
I mean, who do you think the front runners are? I mean, I'm having a really hard time trying to get any kind of concrete
I am as well. Well, Scott is doing the job that he said he was going to do. He is going to do it under the radar. He knows he can't tell the board of trustees jack squat, because that is the biggest leak anywhere. You tell the board of trustees, and I got news for you. Somebody's going to know within 30 minutes. But I think that he is the search committee is allowing him to keep it leveled out to, we've looked at all these different guys, and there's no, because you can't talk to anybody. So that helps with keeping some things down, and you can only go through the agents right now. And if I'm sure they're saying this cannot get out, but it's not any good for the opposing coach for it to get out either. He doesn't want it out. So,
the one that made me laugh was Jeff Goodman initially said Indiana needs to go after Scott Drew or call Scott Drew or whatever it was. And then he shifted to the guy they need to go after, the guy they need to make contact with is TJ Otzelberger.
Yeah.
Then the other day he tweeted, Stevens is out, May is out, Drew is out, Otzelberger's out, just as I thought they would be. It's like, you just said they should contact them. Now you're saying you thought they were out. I mean, make up your mind.
Clickbait, but people fall for it. And I think that's, it's hard for me to, I'm not trying to be judgmental, but I would never purposely put something out that I thought or knew wasn't true. And I just don't see how any of that stuff was put out with the belief it was true. Right. Because every time it came out, I'm like, that's not true. I would spend half my day answering people. I'm like, that's not true. It's not true. When the stuff came out about Beard a week ago, I'm like, that is inaccurate. That is not true. But people will believe it because they want to believe it.
Right.
So,
there's a lot of stretching of reality in all this, and there's a lot of people who are pretending that they have people who are telling them stuff who really know what's going on, who really don't, because the way I look at it, the only people that know what's going on are Scott Dolson and the search firm. I don't think he's sharing anything with anybody else. Maybe one person. I don't even know who that would be.
And these donors are not in the know right now.
No, they can't be. They can't be, because all it takes
And how
is
many
one person.
times have you heard, I spoke to a well-connected donor and blah, and I'm like, okay. Yeah,
Right.
it does not happen.
Right.
But getting back to what you said a minute ago, I don't know who, because it's getting the pool is getting smaller. There's no doubt about that. But Chris Collins is the name that I started talking about yesterday, not because I don't have a dog in the fight, but I'm like, you know what? He's a solid coach. He's successful, and he's been successful with few to no resources. Great basketball family, great basketball mind. He's young enough, great personality. I think he would do well. I think he would be a good fit at Indiana. And so a lot of fans are all out poo-pooing it because he hasn't won a ton. He's been at Northwestern, man. It's one of the hardest places definitely in the Big Ten to win, but period. It's just a tough place to win when you're a Vanderbilt, a Northwestern, one of these schools that it's hard to get players in to pass the entrance exam. I couldn't get into Northwestern. Hell, half the people that are listening to this show couldn't get into Northwestern. It's tough, but he's that's the only name that's kind of for me. I don't know. I don't like Ben McCollum because I don't think he has quite enough experience yet, but it's more because I couldn't stand to watch that offense for the next 5 years.
Well, it's interesting. I mentioned Chris Collins last week, and I've mentioned Chris Collins and people I've conversed with for a while. I think he'd be a solid choice, and I'll tell you why. If you dig a little deeper, I think I looked it up last week. I think it's since 1949. He's the only coach at Northwestern since 1949 to have any seasons when he won more than 60% of his games, and he's done it 4 times. Before him, not one coach at Northwestern won 60% of his time. So that tells you that he has won at a place that's been really hard to win. Secondly, he's the first coach to take him to the NCAA tournament. He's done it 3 times, and every time he won 1 game. Thirdly, you look at his team this year, and they were really competitive until Barnheiser got hurt. And he's doing it with Barnheiser and Martinelli and all these dudes who a lot of Big Ten teams wouldn't even have been able to recruit. He can recruit a higher level player at Indiana. He learned how to recruit under Mike Krzyzewski at Duke. I agree with you. He's got an upbeat, positive personality. Anytime he's played IU, he's been very complimentary of Indiana University. And, I think that, I don't know. I just think he's got a lot of good qualities that he could succeed at a job with more resources. And by the way, who's the one coach in the Big Ten Mike Woodson never beat? It's Chris Collins, 5-0. He's won his last 5 against Indiana.
Great point. That's a great point. That's one you write down and keep. Wow. So there's something to put in your cap when you go to apply for a job. But he's
still young. I think he's only 49 or 50 years old.
Yeah, he's got to be up there. He does. He's got experience. He's got experience in the Big Ten. As I'm trying to, I don't. Brad Brownell doesn't really. He's okay, but he's okay. That seems like an okay hire. Mick Cronin. I don't think that the fans would really. They'd like if he was winning, it wouldn't matter. But
I think with Brownell, what's going to happen is the popularity of his candidacy is going to rise or fall on how his team does in the NCAA tournament. If Clemson gets to the Sweet 16 or the Elite 8, he'll become a sexier candidate. If Clemson gets beat the first weekend and Indiana hires him, there'll be a pushback against it. So we'll see. I mean, they've had a good year this year. I mean, they beat Duke. They beat Kentucky. They've got some signature wins. I know they lost to Louisville. They lost a couple of other early games that were ugly, but last year he went to the Elite 8, and this year as I said, I think the popularity of his candidacy will depend on what he does in the NCAA tournament.
And a lot of fans they keep talking about Ben McCollum as if he is the leader, the leading candidate. And I keep asking, okay, leading according to whom? Whom are you getting this information from? Because there is no information. There is no leader. There is no known leader. There is no. And
I think the reason people say that is they try and make a connection between Cignetti and McCollum, saying if Indiana was trying to hire the Cignetti of basketball, who would it be? A guy who's down a level, has had success. The difference is Cignetti had a success for 4 or 5 years at James Madison. Now, McCollum had tremendous success this year at Missouri Valley. He's going to the NCAA tournament. He's 30-3, beat Vanderbilt and a couple of other teams. But most of his success is at Division II. And I agree with you. The one thing, I've had a couple people tell me this, that they don't think that style of play will resonate at Indiana. They play the slowest tempo of any team in the country this year. I mean, I'm talking about anybody. Number 364 in tempo.
Yeah, Dylan Sin mentioned that a minute ago. And I'm like, I could not watch that for the next 5 years or whatever. And I think that would not be fun. Winning is always fun, but boy, there sure is more exciting ways to win. And that just doesn't seem like something an Assembly Hall crowd would they'd be falling asleep, man.
The other thing I'll say about him is, I mean, there's no guarantee he would want to come to Indiana. I think there's at least a 50% chance that if Iowa loses today in the Big Ten tournament, that Iowa's going to move on from Fran McCaffrey, and that Ben McCollum is going to be the choice at Iowa. And he would be a sensible choice there because he's from Iowa, and Iowa fans, I think, are ready for a change from the Fran McCaffrey style of play, which is play
and
fast.
Boy, would that be a change.
And guard nobody.
You want to talk about it? That's going to be a 180 at Iowa if that turns out to be the case, from scoring 85, 90 points a game and giving up 100 to both teams below 50. Man.
So keep your eye on what does Iowa play? Are they the first game today?
They play today. I think they play Ohio State, I believe, in a.
No, they'll play at about 6 o'clock. The first game is Northwestern. So you got Chris Collins against Minnesota at 3:30. Then you got Iowa, Ohio State, and then you got Southern Cal at Rutgers to end it.
Yeah, and for Indiana, tomorrow's game I think is a win or go home. They're DeCourcy and Lenardi have them in the play-in game right now. So if you lose off the play-in line, I can't imagine them just dropping them 2 spots, but possible, I guess. Oregon is a higher seeded team. They're ranked. They're not supposed to win that game. So that's another thing. When you're in a game you're not supposed to win, you shouldn't be expected to win. And if you lose, are you punished for that?
Yeah. The bigger danger will be, if you got some shocking conference tournament results and you get some teams that get in the tournament that otherwise wouldn't have got in without winning the conference tournament. But I agree with you. I think if Indiana beats Oregon, they're probably in the field. If they lose, I don't think they will make it. So it's a big game for them, and it's a game they should win. I mean, they played Oregon just a week ago to the wire. We're ahead with, a minute and 45 seconds to go and lost by 9. This game's in Indianapolis. They'll have, 100 fans there, 500 fans there for every Oregon fan that's there. Oregon's not going to have any people there. They're not going to travel across the country for the Big Ten tournament. And it's a noon game, and for Oregon, that's 9 o'clock on their body clock time. I believe that is an advantage for Indiana. So they don't have any excuses. They need to win that game.
Coolio says lots of doping over Goodman. Everyone has turned the IU job down. First of all, who has turned the job down? It hasn't been offered to anybody. After a lot of fans were acting very picky, yes, Goodman seems to rub it in, but don't try to act like he doesn't know what's going on. Well, does he? He's put out 3 different things that were wrong. So he doesn't know what's going on in regards to this. I'll tell you that. And nothing against Jeff. He's a great guy, but you could just look at the information. It was not accurate. So to say that
what I don't like is don't say they need to call Drew and they need to call Otzelberger. Then he switched from Drew to Otzelberger and then say, yeah, they don't want the job. I mean, it seems like there's a contradiction there for me. It's like you already knew they probably didn't want the job because I know he's tight with Drew. I don't know if he's tight with Otzelberger or not. It just seems a little bit disingenuous to me.
Brian says, we don't know that the job hasn't been offered to someone.
No, we don't.
Well, but what is the likelihood that has actually been able to happen in season? They didn't have to offer it to Dusty because before they could do that, he went ahead and, in essence, turned the job down by signing that extension. But of course, he probably let his agent know that he was going to stay instead. And I guess that could be considered turning the job down, but Brad Stevens didn't turn it down. I mean, if you want to consider him turning it down, fine. He wasn't an option. You were not getting Brad Stevens. So,
right.
I mean, I could offer him to be my driver and he can turn that down, I guess. But I don't think it's, but then TJ Otzelberger, if he's out of the running, then he probably then in essence he turned the job down.
I mean, if turned down the job might not be the right offer because you're not really.
I don't think it is.
It's like, do you want to talk about it? No, I don't. I like it where I'm at. I'm not going to waste your time. I'm not going to waste my time. That's not unusual. That happened last year
Louisville
at Kentucky
and
at
Kentucky.
Louisville.
Yes.
Yeah,
and how did that work out? I keep telling people, and how did that work out? Louisville is the best example. Pat Kelsey is somebody you never heard of. He was at the College of Charleston, and he took a brand new roster at Louisville and crafted them into a top 20 team into the NCAA tournament in his first season. Enough said.
Well, I'll tell you another one is Mick Cronin. Mick Cronin was the 4th or 5th pick at UCLA. They wanted Rick Barnes, John Calipari, Jamie Dixon, and I think there's one other one. And Jamie Dixon, they couldn't get TCU to move off the buyout. And eventually Cronin just hung in there and he got the job. And I've talked to a couple of people who've gone for jobs and gotten jobs and know how the hiring business works. And what's likely happened to this point right now is that the guys that Indiana is actually interested in, they've made contact with either the coach or the agent to find out if they're interested. Are they interested or not interested? You know, and if they are interested, it's like, okay, when the time is right, if we really want you and you're interested, we'll have serious conversations then. All they've probably done to this point is have their list of these are people who want to seriously talk to us, and they've probably got them ranked. And once some of these coaches fall out of the NCAA tournament, that's when this is going to heat up and it's going to get really crazy. And all these national people who are connected to agents are going to start tweeting out a bunch of stuff about this is the guy and this guy's turned it down or this guy's got the job, and it's going to get insane.
Now Heath is making a great, this is a name
Kelsey?
that I have not heard for this. Pat Kelsey. He only has $1 million buyout. Is that right?
I'm not sure what his buyout is, but he's not leaving Louisville after 1 year. He loves it here.
No, he wouldn't. Although, if you remember down at in the Bahamas, he talked about growing up being an Indiana fan.
I vaguely remember that before he beat him by 38 or whatever it was.
Exactly. Before he went out and crushed their souls.
Right. I can't see him leaving. I really can't.
Me either. But it's funny that his name hasn't been brought up.
I mean, Pitino's has been. I see Pitino on some of these lists. I don't think he would do it because he loves New York and he loves the Garden and he loves the Big East and he's moved a million times.
Indiana would never do
anybody that has the ego to say, I'm the only guy that coached Kentucky, Louisville, and Indiana, it is Rick Pitino.
And took them to to the NCAA or whatever.
Won
Oh,
a
he would have been. Can you imagine if Indiana would have gotten him 4 years ago?
Yeah.
They would be playing in Final Fours
Or
and
8
winning
years
Big
ago
Ten.
when they got Archie.
I mean, oh well, yeah. We've got to take a break. The great Rick Bozich from WDRB.com is with us. The Big Ten tournament underway today, and the NCAA tournament soon to follow. Welcome back to the Hard Truth Distilling Company studios on this Wednesday. Glad to have you along. It is tournament week as the Big Ten tournament getting underway today up in Indianapolis at not Lucas Oil, but Gamebridge Fieldhouse, and ACC tournament already underway. I would assume. Does the SEC get underway today or tomorrow, Rick? Rick Bozich with us from WDRB.com.
It's today in Nashville.
I know they have they have all of their teams probably playing in the tournament. They have 16 teams in the conference or 14?
16.
16. So are all 16 of the teams playing in the SEC tournament?
That's correct. Yeah. South Carolina is the worst team, and they open against John Calipari in a big game at noon today. And if Arkansas loses that one, they will fall out of the tournament. And if they win, they'll stay alive. That's a big game.
Yeah,
Arkansas already lost to South Carolina twice. You can't lose to them once. You can't lose to them twice and expect to make the NCAA tournament. So that game's on at noon on the SEC network.
All right, Indiana considered on the definitely on the bubble, but both DeCourcy and Lenardi have them in the play-in game, which if they lose, any chance that they get in?
IU?
Yeah, to Oregon.
No, if they lose to Oregon, I don't think they'll make the tournament. They'll be in the crown, baby. You'll be doing the show from Las Vegas.
Well, we talked about that a minute ago. We'll talk about that again. But all right, let's say that Ohio State beats was it Iowa they play today?
I think so.
And which is a lower seeded team. They're playing on the first day, which is that an advantage? If they win their first game, lose their second game, does Ohio State move up past Indiana and stay in the tournament? Because they have the opportunity to play.
I wouldn't think so. Beating Iowa's not really going to give you much credibility. They'd have to beat Illinois, I think, the next game.
I think that might help Indiana if they did lose, because you maybe be able to keep Indiana in the bottom of the play-in if they were to lose. Now, they're more than capable of winning the game. It's going to be a quasi-home game for Indiana. They played well with Oregon out in Eugene until the end of that game kind of fell apart for them. But maybe the home crowd gets them reinvigorated. But they just need to take all doubt out and win the damn game.
Yeah, I mean, the games Indiana fans need to watch today, like from the SEC, they could use South Carolina beating Arkansas. They could benefit from Vanderbilt beating Texas, and they could benefit from Georgia beating Oklahoma. If Arkansas, Texas, and Oklahoma all win, those are three teams that start to crowd Indiana on the bracket. So they need some of those teams to lose. In the ACC, there really isn't anything to watch today because none of the teams that are playing are going to make the tournament. I don't know the Big 12 bracket well enough to know. To me, the focus is on the SEC. What's Arkansas going to do? What's Texas going to do? And what's Oklahoma going to do?
Yeah, Oklahoma, one of those teams also on the play-in side of things, right above Indiana. So that's the team to keep aware of as well. Not as many bid stealers this time around, which is helping these teams, because in a normal year, I don't think any of those four teams that are on that play-in line would be on the play-in line right now.
Right. I agree. I mean, Indiana benefited from Drake winning the Missouri Valley. If somebody else would have won, that would have been a bid steal. You got to look in the Atlantic 10. If VCU gets upset, that'll be a big bid stealer. Gonzaga won the West Coast Conference tournament, so either Gonzaga or St. Mary's was going to make the tournament. You didn't have a bid stealer there. The other, chances is you got some long shot team that either wins in the Big East, and I don't even know who that would be. That would have to be like a Butler or trying to think of who Xavier. That's a team that Indiana needs to lose. Is Xavier. In the Big 12 would be like if a Cincinnati got hot and won the Big 12 tournament. In the Big 10, who would be a bid stealer? Nebraska could be a bid stealer, I guess, if they got hot.
Oh, there's no way.
No, there's no way. But people said that last year about NC State, and they won 5 games and won the ACC tournament and went to the Final Four. So there is a way. I mean, but
how strong was the ACC last year? I don't remember.
It wasn't that strong, but they had to win 5 games. I mean, they.
But it's more difficult to win 5 games against teams that are that much better than you are.
Right.
But I get what you're saying. There's a chance. It's not impossible, and it's happened. Michigan.
What about a team like Rutgers? I mean, they got talent. They'd have to win 5 games. I mean, that would be one.
Yeah.
All the teams that are seated ahead of Indiana are in the tournament. So the only teams they would have to worry about are like the 10 seed is Ohio State. Yeah, you got to worry about them. The 11 seed is Rutgers. Yeah, you got to worry about them. I guess if you said in the ACC, Carolina would be a team. Carolina's got talent. They're probably not going to win the ACC tournament, but if they did, that was a bid stealer. Wake Forest is another one. They're the 4 seed. They've only got to win 3 games. They'd have to beat Duke in the second game, but Wake Forest would be a bid stealer. So
yeah, Nebraska.
All it takes is 1 or 2 crazy results like that, and that would hurt Indiana's chances.
It won't be Nebraska. They're not playing in Indianapolis.
Oh, there we go. See, that's how much of a long shot they are.
They
beat Indiana decisively for the 800th straight time. I figured they were a 1 seed in the Big Ten tournament.
They were one of 5 teams tied, and they lost the tiebreaker. And they had just come off of a double overtime 2-point loss at Ohio State.
Right.
So
I forgot that they collapsed late in the year. That's my bad.
Yeah, looking for a Xavier loss. That will help Indiana as well.
Every time I watch Nebraska, they win because they've beaten Indiana at least 4 in a row. So I figured they were safely in the field.
I've talked about this earlier. I don't think that if Indiana fails to make the NCAA tournament, I think that they ask for some kind of release to not have to play. I'm serious.
From the crown?
To not play. Yes, because what if, since that's not as difficult of a tournament, obviously, what if they went a little further than the team of the coach who ends up being the guy? That would be a weird situation.
No. I don't know the legalities of it. I've heard that you're not allowed to turn a bid down to the crown.
Well, I think that is the truth, but I think that they could also ask for and be released from it. And with
turn it over to Yasir Rosemont and roll with it, baby. Let Tim Garl coach the team.
Probably rather have Calbert Cheney coaching the team, but
I saw Calvert did the radio show this week. Woody's going out.
I wanted to go out there, but with the time change,
I know that you have Fish on every week. Has he talked about it at all?
Just one time early on, and he said, I guess he's upset with me. It could have been something I said here, and then I sent you that. I started thinking about it, and I'm like, oh man, and that happens to be one of the most viewed videos of ours in a while, and it's got that, and I'm like, oh, I hope that wasn't it. But it's not that I don't care, because it's childish, but yeah. I think it's funny. He's being paid to do that stuff. I wonder, is when he sends all those guys out, is he said, all right, well, I receive X for this, I'll give that to you.
I don't know. I mean, there's less than 2 weeks to go. I hope everybody can play nice in the sandbox and finish it out the right way, and we don't have any ugliness on the way out the door, because Mike Woodson. What
did you think about how the senior day festivities that were changed this year? Normally, all the players get to give a little speech of their own to talk to the crowd. That was all recorded. Mike Woodson was mostly, or a thing was recorded about him. I think that he did good. There was nothing said negative, and so I guess they got out of that just fine.
I understood it. I'm sure Indiana wanted to make sure that nothing negative came out of that upset fans or caused a controversy. They want this to end as peacefully as possible, but I didn't like it because the tradition goes all the way back to when Bob Knight was the coach. And I know a lot of fans enjoy that game, whether they're there in person watching it or they're watching it on television. They want to see what these guys have to say. And again, that goes back. Woodson ruined it because Woodson made that comment last year about real fans or true fans or whatever it was. And Leal and Galloway enhanced it by telling people to chill and all this other stuff. And it's like, you play and let fans be fans and they'll decide the way they want to be fans. And anybody, like I got in a debate with a Mike Woodson supporter the other day, like anybody that thinks that a 10-10 record in the Big Ten in your fourth year there and getting blown out by Louisville and Iowa and Illinois and being a bubble team in the NCAA tournament is the standard at Indiana is not being realistic.
Absolutely. And now that we are in this part of the crazy season, when do you think an announcement is likely to come? I think it possibly could. The earliest I see it is after the second weekend, close to the Final Four or right after the Final Four.
Yeah, I agree. After the Sunday of Sweet 16 weekend, when we're down to 4 teams, you got 16 teams on the Thursday. It'll be 2 weeks from tomorrow. Is when the Sweet 16 weekend begins, and on Sunday you're down to 4 teams. Between that Sunday and the Final Four on the weekend that week, unless the coach is in the Final Four, and then I doubt if he's going to leave to come to Indiana. So I think it'll be that week.
Who's your Final Four?
I like Auburn, and I know that's not a dramatic pick.
It's hard not to. You can't not.
Something about me because Duke has freshmen, and I'm not totally crazy about their guards, thinks they're going to get upset. I like Florida. I think they're the really good team that is overlooked. And my dark horse team is Maryland. I think Maryland's been really good recently. The only game they lost was on that crazy shot by Michigan State. They can shoot the ball. They've got talent. I mean, I'm going to look it up right now. I mean, they've won a bunch of games recently, and they've won what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 11 of their last 13. And one of the losses was that loss to Michigan State. So for a dark horse team, I'm going with Maryland. And Houston,
I like them.
I mean, Houston is just solid. So those are my 4: Maryland, Houston, Florida, and Auburn.
Sounds great. Are you coming to Indianapolis at all?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm probably going to come tomorrow, but then part of me thought just wait and come on Friday. But then I thought, well, what if they don't play on Friday?
Exactly. Smart man.
Do you think they're going to win tomorrow?
I don't know. I don't, because when they have pressure on them, a lot of times they haven't always come through, but they did the last game out against Ohio State. And as long as they don't get down too far, because they've had a tendency to get down and be a second half team, but they definitely can. They match up well, and it's a quasi home game. So
I'll probably come tomorrow, because if they win, I think that does put them in the tournament. And if they lose, then it might be the farewell. So I'll probably come tomorrow. So I'll look for you. I guess I read the email. There's no reserve seating. It's first come, first serve.
Luckily, I'll be doing the show there and get there early.
Up in the upper arena. Is that where we're at?
I have no idea.
There's no more courtside seating. I saw that.
That's right. I forgot about that. We'll find out. Sir Rick Bozich from WDRB.com. Appreciate you, brother.
Save me a seat.
I will do just that.
All right.
Appreciate you, brother.
Thanks, Jim.
We appreciate you joining us on the program, like I said, tomorrow from Gamebridge Fieldhouse. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle. Go out and have yourselves a great day. See you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.
Hello, sports fans. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Thank you for stopping by our YouTube channel. Make sure to hit the subscribe and notifications toggle so you never miss a thing. All of our content up here every day. Looking forward to it. Thank you, and we'll see you on the radio.